Hello, McFluffy52 here, back with some more Phyrexia All Be One action, and today we're playing a Turbo Mill deck that I'm calling Reanimator Mill, because our goal here is to play Jace, minus exit for like 15 cards, reoccur it with Tamiyo, and then there's some other cool things about this deck, because we can also mill our opponent out super fast with Terisian Mindbreaker when it attacks in, depending player mills half their library rounded down. We get into the graveyard with Faithful Mending, and then Jace, we can also soul partition Jace, so we can play it again, which is really neat. We also have Founding in the third path, which allows us to cast instants and sorceries and then mill the opponent, and then we can cast a card from our graveyard. In terms of interaction, we got some bounce spells to help us stall the game out, some depopulates, and then some card selection with Experimental Augury that can also potentially proliferate Jace or the Saga to get things going a little bit faster. And that's basically the deck. We're playing Vant colors and see how we can do on the ranked ladder. I feel like Mill can be so much fun sometimes when you're sick of just playing the standard way to win. It's just sometimes a nice different thing to try. It's I wouldn't say that I'm a Mill player through and through, but I do enjoy playing Mill occasionally. Okay, this hand is not a keep. We got two lands. We got two Founding of the Third Pass, as well as an Experimental Augury, the Faithful Mending if we top deck something useful. I think we go ahead and get rid of one of those. Play a Seachrome Coast, comes in untapped. One of the past lands from Phyrexia All Will Be One. I didn't realize they had flavor text. Alright. I think we're just gonna go ahead, play Founding of the Third Path, play on Chapter 1, cast the Experimental Augury for free. And then another land would be nice. Green source would be also kind of handy. Go ahead, grab that. Also counts as another blue source. Or you get to proliferate the saga, and we get the milling started. So it looks like we're playing a Esper control list with Kaya as our top end. That was one fun thing about mill decks is you also get to look at what the other opponent is doing. I wonder if they're going to proliferate our saga. It wouldn't be the worst thing to do because we can't actually use it. Because it says you may copy and cast copy. They could have interrupted our saga here, which we might actually go ahead and cast this. We don't have anything good to do with our turn. We go ahead and cast this. Look for a nice card to play. Another Founding of the Third Pass sounds pretty nice. And boom. Didn't pick up the Depopulate there, nor did we pick up the land. I don't think Depopulate is going to be very useful into our opponent here, who's looking to play a little bit more of the planeswalkers. It's not a terrible matchup for us, but the problem is going to be if they have planeswalker removal. We'll go ahead and play out Jace here and then like -4 Jace. I'm going to pay a life because our pain lands. But we're not too upset with that. We're going to go ahead. We're going to go -4. I like to go -4 here because it gets the graveyard pretty full to start. And then we can start trying to recur Jace. This means that they actually have to do something to get rid of Jace, though. I don't like to play him in -5 immediately because of that. We get rid of the Founding of the Third Path. Not as good as getting our Tamiyo out here. Kaya Geist Hunter. So, tokens? Exile cards from graveyards. That is something that they could do. That could affect us a little bit, but not really. Alright, we're gonna go ahead and play out Tamiyo here. How low is their opponent? We don't have enough to completely mill them. We're gonna be losing this Founding of the Third Path is the thing. But we'll lose Tamiyo if we don't play Tamiyo. We can actually play Tamiyo, get back a Founding of the Third Path, mill our opponent for 4. That is an option here. Because the Founding of the Third Path are permanents. We'll go for double blue here. This way we only have to pay 1. Yeah, we only have to pay 1 life if we do it this way. Not that I think it's going to matter a whole awful lot. We'll go ahead and take up Jace here to make our opponent deal with something with it, and then not too concerned about our Tamiyo's life at the moment. We'll go ahead and pay 2, get back one of these, and just mill our opponent, I think. Oh, I thought I sent it to the second one. Well, that's fine. The only thing that could really screw us up would be if they have an invoke. If they had a invoke in hand. They get 2 tokens here. So we do need to find ourselves a depopulate if we want our planeswalkers to live. That is fine. We get a Fading Hope, that's pretty good. Opponent can draw a bunch of cards most likely, which is concerning. Actually what we do is we tap one of these, and the other one we can just Fading Hope. Do we want to mill our opponent? Look at how much they have. They have 24 or 27 in library, so we can mill them for 6. That brings them down pretty low, but I think we're gonna instead do this. Make them mill a few cards, and then we draw 3. Which is pretty good if you ask me. Because what we can do next turn is we can mill them half their library with this Terisian Mindbreaker. We'll go ahead and do that, submit 2 cards. We want to get rid of one of our Rona's Vortex. Now, let's get rid of an Experimental Augury. Will do less for us in the graveyard. Okay. And then I think we just leave it here. Yeah. And turn, if we get to everything to stay on the battlefield for a turn, we do have a way to beat our opponent next turn. With the Terisian Mindbreaker plus Tamiyo getting back Jace from our graveyard. If they have a way to get rid of our graveyard, that would be a problem. We can bounce Tamiyo to our hand here, which might be relevant, so let's go ahead and do that. Return target. Oh wait, no, you don't control. My bad. Yeah, that is a bit upsetting. We can still mill our opponent pretty bad here, so let's go ahead and just let her die. Kind of sad. We'll Experimental Augury to see if we can find another mill answer. Opponent draws a card. They pump their spirits. We do have these Fading Hopes, which are going to do a lot of work against these tokens.
Fighting the undead is my specialty.
Each player discards a card. That is fine. Go ahead, discard this. Honestly, we didn't even really have to discard our Terisian Mindbreaker with our Faithful Mending, because they would have made us discard it with Liliana. So maybe that's a bit of a misplay on our part. See if our opponent wants to go ahead and swing in. Go ahead and bounce this to their hand. Which is not their hand technically. Get that out of the top of our library. And then play this to see if we can find a way to finish the job. Tamiyo will finish the job if we can survive another turn. Yeah, and if they don't have another planeswalker removal. Let's go ahead and grab that. Proliferate? Do we want to proliferate our saga? No, we don't want to proliferate our saga. Okay. We do have the mana to go ahead and do this, I think. We have plenty of mana here, so we're going to go ahead Fading Hope. Their token. But they have to create more tokens. And then another land. Don't really need that here. We can get rid of their Liliana as well with this, or not get rid of, but stop Liliana from ulting. By ulting, I mean using her minus 7 or something. What is it called? Yeah, -6, separate all permanents target player controls into 2 piles that player sacrifices. Yeah, I don't really like sacrificing my permanents, so we're just gonna head stop that. It's nice we have a second card to discard to Liliana, though. That was actually one good reason to use the Experimental Augury. Because now we can go ahead, discard Soul Partition, and then our turn, as long as they don't have, actually, I don't think they could do anything besides counter our Tamiyo. Like, even if they have a removal spell, the Planeswalker's abilities resolve before the removal spell takes effect. Or we can just mill them with Jace. We'll just go play full cost Jace. Say good game. Mill 5. Or 15. And boom! That's another win on the ranked ladder with Mill. Dang. I've been surprised how well this deck has been working. The really cheap bounce spells on top of just like other efficient spells, the Terisian Mindbreaker is honestly a huge part of this deck. That plus Jace is your mill. You can fool around with Jace in a bunch of different ways to keep the mill going with Jace, but your Terisian Mindbreaker makes it very easy. It's like a 1-2 punch. You play the Terisian, or you reanimate the Terisian Mindbreaker from your graveyard, or unearth it rather, and then you go ahead and play Jace and like tick down Jace a bunch, and your opponent's basically milled at that point. This seems like a pretty good hand. We got Experimental Augury with Founding of the Third Path going. So we'll go ahead and play out the Spar's headquarters. I have to play our Altawara, unless we top deck another untapped land. Skrelv, so we're probably into Selesnya Toxic, which is a really fast and annoying deck. So maybe there is something to be said about playing this Founding of the Third Path, and instead of using Experimental Augury, Rona's Vortexing the Skrelv here. What is the right play? This is definitely the right play, because at least we can do either one of these. Skrelv will slow him down a bunch, but I kind of want to see what's going on. Another Terisian Mindbreaker. Perona's Vortex will help us. And then we can go ahead and mill them. Yep, Selesnya Toxic, but they have Mondrak, which is a spicy include. Selesnya Toxic, quite the meta deck at the moment. Got two Rona's Vortex, which should do us well. Skrelv is tapped out, so they can't stop us from bouncing. Do we want to cast this? Honestly, I'm kind of liking that. We need to find some action here. There we go. Faithful Mending, that's huge. Or Jace. Faithful Mending can help us find another Jace and will enable our yeah, while they're tapped out, we'll go ahead and do this since Skrelv can stop it. Too bad we can't get our Terisian Mindbreaker into our graveyard yet, unless they have a discard. But they're not going to be playing any discard, they're playing Selesnya. Don't think there is any target opponent discards in white or green. So we can play Faithful Mending and Experimental Augury on our turn. Hopefully though we find ourselves another one of these Founding of the Third Path. They're pretty spicy. Pretty nice and spicy. We're looking very dead at the moment. We really need to find a Jace. Okay, we'll go ahead Faithful Mending first. Well, is there anything that would make playing this not at instant speed, or at instant speed more worth? Nah, I don't think so. Go ahead and do this now. Discard this and the land? I mean, we can discard the Faithful Mending, so we can get it back. Or, like, we can cast it from our graveyard. And then we're gonna go hold up this Verona's Vortex. Though if we bounce something of our opponent, we get a poison counter. But I think it's almost worth bouncing this Jawbone Duelist and getting that poison counter because Skrelv is tapped out and Jawbone Duelist is going to give us 2. Yeah, whatever. Poison counter is a poison counter. It's fine. Does the opponent have like a kill on us here in next 2 turns? Probably. So let's get this uphill battle. Holy smoly. Yeah, I think that's game. There's no way we can, they're gonna hold up the Skrelv, which is nice. So that actually saves us, potentially. That's actually huge. Opponent more worried about something getting bounced. Like, the funny thing, though, is they have Venerated Rot Priest, so they should welcome us casting spells at their creatures and just swinging with their Skrelv, but... Alright, what do we got our opponent down to? 22. So if we find a Jace and or we need like a Jace and a land. So we play like Founding of the Third Path, Experimental Augury. and hope we top deck a land and a Jace, or a land and then we find a Jace. There's a way we win this, but there's also like a million ways we lose from this exact position. They need to get like a single target spell and we're donezo. Because they have like 9 poison, 7 plus 2. Because they got the 3, they got the scrub, the... Oh, yeah, that's just straight up a kill. Yep, Slesny and Toxic showing why it is a beast. It is a serious contender for one of the best decks. It is definitely, if you're new to the game, I think it is probably one of the best decks to craft, just purely because all the cards in it are basically new cards. You're playing, like, you're not going to play soldiers, or like if you end up, if you're new to the game and you craft soldiers, a bunch of those cards are going to rotate later this year, and then same thing with like mono red right now, like Kamano, uh, what is I can't remember all the ones that are going to rotate, but there's some good cards that are going to be rotating in mono red. Like Kamano is like a very notable one. I mean, they still have Swift Spear, Phoenix Chick, so it's not like it's over, but pretty ridiculous. Okay, they were playing a normal size deck. I was like, what? Oh, we already have the depopulate, so I might go ahead and pick up the land, despite how much I want that Tamiyo. We might regret milling our opponent because of the Phoenix Chicks. Ooh, they're playing something spicy with the Gleeful Demolition. Maybe they're using Gleeful Demolition plus the blood tokens from what's her name? Voldaren Epicure. Do we want to cast this? I don't think we have anything better to do. We already knew that we ended up drawing the land, so we just need... I don't know what I mean. Ooh, Soul Partition. I like that. Faithful Mending is really good though. So we're gonna go ahead and Faithful Mending here. Grab the Faithful Mending. This Faithful Mending allows us to draw, discard, heal ourselves a little bit. No. Actually, we could screw up their Kamano. We should have ticked up their... Actually, it doesn't make too much of a difference. So we would have given them the Kamano a turn early. So they would have hit in for 2, but they would have gotten the plus counter. There's argument to be made. What did you exile? Oh, founding a 3rd path? Sure. They don't really have enough creatures to make going for, So we're gonna go ahead, Depopulate's not gonna be worth it here, so we might go ahead and just pass turn. Let's run until Augury and Faithful Mending. I mean, sure, it's not gonna change too much. They got Trample. It's very interesting. I exile the top 2 cards of our library. Huh, fun. I mean, they should definitely cast that for us so that they mill themselves a little, you know? I mean, they should probably know what we're doing. We're trying to mill them, so we gotta be a little bit careful here with what they're casting. Go ahead, discard the Terisian Mindbreaker. The Yavimaya Coast, because it's a pain land, is not going to do too much. And then this, we can go ahead and find more card. Tamiyo seems kind of nice. We already have a Faithful Mending in hand, so we're not too worried about that. Alright, what is the correct play here? We can mill half their library with this Terisian Mindbreaker. The problem is we're going to be taking a fair amount of damage next turn. But I'm wondering if they can actually kill us. Because, like, we could depopulate here, take a turn off, and do that. Hello. But I feel like it's not actually relevant, or, like, that big of a problem. Uh, like, yeah, we could depopulate, but like, what do they do? Play Squee? But even if they played Squee next turn, it wouldn't. Yeah, I think we're just gonna go for the Mindbreaker before they can do anything about it in our graveyard as well. I mean, they can get like 2 Phoenix Chicks back, but this means that we actually get rid of the Phoenix Chicks for like good. Actually, it costs them 2 red, and they don't have 2 red or 2 reds. Interesting. Yep, there's the Phoenix Chicks that I was talking about. Just to populate. I mean, do we just have full mill on them? No, we don't. Not quite. Yeah, we're playing Jace and some other stuff. They don't have anything to hit with any of our other cards, though. We can't even play Jace. Really fun deck, though. Do respect our opponent for this deck. Okay. Do we Faithful Mending here and hope we hit a land, or like gamble on a land, or do we just go ahead and sweep? I think go ahead and sweep is probably the move. Feels kind of bad, but opponent definitely played around us playing out anything there by playing the Curse of Hospitality. They're in Epicure. They're down to 20 cards, so they're very close to gone. We'll go ahead and play Jace, take it down 4, so they have to go attack into it if they want it gone. I think. I think that's the move. Let me think real quick. We could do this, discard the Terisian Mindbreaker and Founding of the Third Path, which sounds not bad either. Go ahead and do this. This gets us more life and a buffer, and secures us another way to win. What do we want to discard? Faithful Mending is not terrible discard. We have 2 Founding of the Third Path, though. Let's do that. Let me go ahead, play land. I think we play Founding of the Third Path here, and then we can Faithful Mending. Again. And we should have our opponent pretty milled. We don't really want to cast a run. Wait, yeah, this is for free. Okay. Best cards to keep. We can double Jace potentially, so we might want to just get rid of the Tamiyo. Tamiyo is just a more expensive Jace in a way. The populate's not going to be relevant. We're going to just end the game before it's relevant. Alright. End turn. We got 4 mil on them, so we should basically have them. With double Jace especially. I don't know if I played this game like overly safe, but nice having these Faithful Mendings against these more aggro matchups. We've gained how much life from Faithful Mending this entire game? Opponent searching for something to do here. They drew cards. So honestly, they're gone, basically. I'm not really worried about them doing anything else, so we're just gonna go ahead and bounce that. Don't really like the idea of them taking our cards. I only get 1 card this, or 2 cards with this way, at least. Fading Hope. That's not gonna do anything. And I think that's a good game. That's another dub for Mill. Crazy. I mean, they would have to burn us out in like a crazy fashion here for anything to be relevant. Because we have like Terisian Mindbreaker as well. Terisian. The art for this card is so freaking cool. It is so cool. Opponent Voldaren Epicure, Voldaren Epicure. We bounced one of them, so we gave them that. Alright, target player mills 4. Bye-bye. Do we want to do perhaps like the dumb thing here? Go in with this? Sure. We came here to break some minds. That is so funny. Mono red. But to be fair, this isn't like the most meta mono red deck that you could imagine, but it is really funny. Okay, let's go ahead and do this. Just need to mill him 6. We can go ahead and take this down too. Goodbye. Good game. You're a worthy opponent. It was a very cool mono red deck with these Curse of Hospitalities. As far as I understand, this is a really good card in Commander. Or annoying card in Commander, in a way. Opponent chooses to go out in glorious fashion, trying to draw as many cards as possible. GG's. Let's see if we can keep it up. So that's 1 win, 1 loss, 1 win so far. Let me know what you guys think about Mill. I know I saw some other decks of like people trying to make Mill work. I feel like this Mill is like the most tempo-y Mill that of all the other decks I've seen. I feel like other ones are a little bit lean a bit more into like, oh, let's control the board for like super long amount of time. This mill is like we are trying to mill you turn 7. Turn 7, we're hoping to get you milled out, which I really think is cool. I like Jace and depopulates. Our opponent though, they're playing blue, so maybe this was a bad keep. Well, we could just pitch both these depopulates to the faithful mending if they're actually a blue deck. Though they've got these cryptic command sleeves, but they have a Vorinclex Avatar. That is the most. I feel like that's the most confused Magic player I've ever seen. I feel like green and blue, or the people who play green and the people who play blue, generally are not on the same side of the argument in terms of how best to play the game. Blue's like, let's counterspell and draw cards and bounce your things, whereas green play big thing, right? Fitty. Will we beat our opponent Fitty? They're kind of stalling for time here. Do they keep a no-lander? That'd be pretty Giga Chad. Alright. Play the planes, because we're still not sure what our opponent's up to. Do we want a Faithful Mending now? Sure. Holy moly. Okay. We'll pitch a Depopulate here. We have Terisian Mindbreaker on 4 if they don't have any graveyard manipulation. Scrap Gorger is what we would hope not to see at this point. Okay, our opponent's playing very multicolored. That is what we like to see. Okay, so next turn we get Terisian Mindbreaker out there, well half their library, hopefully. Hopefully they don't have a random, like, target exile. Celestis, okay, opponent. You look like you might be a multicolor reanimator deck. We'll help you with the graveyard, don't worry. Pay life. We got 22 to spare. And holy moly, what are you playing? Looks like 5-color legends. I like it. You got Joda, and then you got like a bunch of different legendaries from every single color. You got the Atraxa in there, respectable. Surprised to see Tyvar. We don't have my favorite thing to do. Just play Jace here, take it down 4, and then bounce it, or like protect it with Soul Partition. So we might wait a turn before we actually play this Jace. Our opponent though, they'll probably get Tamiyo going here, which is fair. They do have 1, 2, 3, 4 white sources, so they could reanimate something, but we can just Soul Partition it back into their hand. So they might go for their Atraxa. Though they can just take down Tamiyo here. They can take down Tamiyo 5 to get their Joda. I forgot. Tamiyo, we're playing it. Exile no target non-land permanent card with a mana value X. From your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of that card. So they might be looking here to see, what do we want to get from our graveyard? We're gonna get Gwenna? You know what? That's cool. I like that. Alright, we need another land here to really finish off our mill scheme. We could go ahead, play Jace, and just draw 3 cards. Because our opponent has 24 cards in their graveyard. It's not the worst plan. We're going to take 0 damage because we actually have 2 blue sources. I think that might actually be what we do here. Jace might die, but if we draw into a bounce spell, in that case, let's go ahead and tap this white source instead. Yeah, if we draw into a bounce spell with this, this should work. Which draws 3 cards. Okay, we drew into a bounce spell, so if they go into attack in our Jace, we can defend it that way. But we also have another Jace, so we just need this Jace to survive. We take it down 3, and then we... Okay, we win. GG, opponent. Okay, they have nothing to tap.
Our will cannot be denied.
I am sorry, opponent, but that's not how this is going to work. I will pay 1 life to certainly do this. I am so sorry, opponent. This milling like this is... Bro, why is mill so good? It... The last time mill felt this good was, like, when Rune Crab was still in standard and you could do, like, the Tachia's Hideous Laughter and copy it. Alright, let's go ahead, mill 4. Yeah. Opponent reads the writing on the wall, and it's game. Bam. I like to say, I know that like sometimes I play these games in like standard queue games before going, so like my win rate is not always representative. I try and say that. But this one I've genuinely played in like ranked way more than I played in standard queue. I think I played like 1 or 2 games in standard queue, and then the rest have been in ranked. Um, and damn, this deck has actually been performing quite well. That's crazy. But you can just see how we can really play around the Terisian Mindbreaker, Jace. Man, I'm gonna be so sad when Faithful Mending rotates. It's great in Reanimator, it's great in like this as well. Faithful Mending, what a cool card. Gains you life, draw 2 cards, discard 2 cards. Pretty nice. Alright, this one's nice, but it's not that nice. We need some more interaction. Okay, this looks like the most psychotic hand, but we'll try it out. It looks like we're gonna only be playing bounce spells for the first 2 hands, or first 2 turns, or 3 turns. One thing I heard, I know sometimes I'm like sitting here and I'm like, did are we going first or our opponent goes first? Because sometimes I forget to read. I heard one thing is like if you look over here right before the game starts, if the arrow is like orange, you're gonna be playing first. If it's ooh, opponent now, opponent, come on now. Do we need another land? I think we have 3 at this point. That's pretty decent. We'll probably draw into another one anyways, right? Boom. Alright, go ahead, pass turn. What do we want to do here? Faithful Mending gets us not the deepest, so actually Experimental Augury is the best thing. We're playing this primarily for just like the cantrip factor and the hope that Proliferate might be relevant. And it has proven to be relevant multiple times, so pretty cool deck. Opponent here going in with the loaded Contaminator. I think we might go ahead Experimental Augury in response. Ooh, ooh. Okay, like that. And then, do we care about the creature existing? 4 damage is a lot. We can slow that down. We can do it, so why not right now? Opponent can probably play it out again. Or do they have a Evolved Spinoderm? That would be the biggest one that, or green thing that they could play. Feel bad for our opponent trying to play mono green. That is a bold strategy. You can see how these 1-mana bounce spells put in ridiculous amount of work. I think we're gonna go ahead and just Rona's Vortex. Actually, we'll take the damage. Because I don't want to Rona's Vortex if I'm going to hit something more interesting with a Faithful Mending that we could play onto. And we don't really want to play Faithful Mending before they use the rest of their mana, just in case they have a way to exile it from the graveyard. Okay, they have nothing to exile it from the graveyard. Opponent is just playing some good old honest mono green. Respectable. Alright, we're gonna go ahead, sure onto Augury here as well. Hopefully find that land. That's nice, because that gives us a bounce spell. Submit 0, we're not interested in proliferating our own counters. Ooh, we got Tamiyo, that's a good place to start. This means that we can actually hit Thrun with the tap down. Oh wait, we can't tap the way we wanted. Well, that one land is still relevant. Or that one land is still important. We're gonna be taking a beating here though. Jace would be pretty good right about now. We can a green source would also a green or blue source would also be very good right now because that means we can play Tamiyo and hold up a bounce spell. Tap down Thrun, hold up a bounce spell. Taking 9 here, putting us down to 9. Yep. Defiler. Ah, shucks. That's... Ooh, that is not what we want to see. Good, play it out, though. What is the right move? Because Tamiyo would potentially get their attention off of our life total. Well, we can't bounce, so that's not a guarantee. If we played Tamiyo for cheap, we could bounce the Defiler before it becomes relevant. This says whenever you cast a green permanent spell, so we'd have to bounce it back to their hand immediately. I think what we're gonna do here, I don't know if this is the most advisable thing, is we're gonna go ahead and do this for cheap. Does this actually prevent that much more damage than Soul Partition Plus? Because we take 2 damage here, it comes in with 3 loyalty, we tap down this, we bounce that. Tamiyo's gonna die to the 4 damage. And then, yeah, I don't know. We'll go ahead and do it. Can't do much about the Thrun, so we'll go ahead and tap down Thrun. This is actually the secret answer to Thrun. Go ahead. We're gonna bounce it on their turn, I think. This keeps us alive. They don't have any protection spell. Actually, protection spell would have blown us out there. I do think if you're playing green, protection spell, like run 2 Tamiyo safekeeping. You don't have to like overload in them, but I feel like protection, or just don't run like a super high curve like this deck. Either be low to the ground or run a few protection spells. And by a few, 2 is probably decent. They can only play 1 green permanent here. Yeah. They can't kill us, they can kill Tamiyo. It's fine. We basically need a miracle. I don't think there's any way we actually... Oh, they just went straight for the face. I mean, fair enough, they can proliferate with Bloated Contaminator, make everything massive. Okay. Alright, what gives us actually a chance of winning? So we can mill here. We need a way to draw a card, but there is no way to draw a card now, is there? I think we might just be at a loss here. Let me think. I mean, yeah, we cast the Soul Partition for free, but that doesn't do anything. We can mill something here. The only thing that we could do is like... Well, this actually costs us mana, which is a problem. Throw into Augury. Auto pay. Yeah, that's not gonna do it. Alright, well, we tried. Go ahead, pass the turn, let our opponent smash. Smash. Bring it at us. All the way down to negative 28. Fair enough. We did not find any Jaces, and I think that was what really lost us that game. Thrun Thrun showed us why Thrun was good. We couldn't bounce Thrun, so we had to play out the Tamiyo to interact with it, and we couldn't find any Jaces. Yeah, we got the Terisian Mindbreaker off though. That was good. Just wish there was a better way for us to have kept milling. That is the one thing. This deck is hinges on a few cards, so it sometimes does not perform. All right, this is a pretty good hand. We got Verona's Vortex. Black. Uh-oh. I don't really like that, because that means our Jace could die to Shildra's Edict. Nope, Golgari. Okay. That is a little bit spooky because of the implications that we could exile our graveyard. Our graveyard becomes relevant. Do we want to shock out Jace here? I think it's probably worth. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. The problem is though, is if they somehow have a way to give the Scrap Gorger a, if they have Bite Down, we have a problem, but they probably don't have Bite Down. Oh, they have Eaten Live. Okay, that's strange. I do love the arts that they have. Very cool. They do have a way to give it a counter, but that's not going to be relevant. Okay, so they're a fight rating deck. Interesting. I was thinking that they're going to be playing like Obliterate or fight spells. We do have this Depopulate here, which is nice. Um, hold on. Let me think. We can go ahead and search with this, and then yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Go ahead, search for something good. Ooh, Soul Partition. Founding of the Third Path. I like Soul Partition. Sounds good to me. Yep. Proliferate that. Go ahead, tick it up. Actually, do we want to tick it down one? Nah, I'd much rather do this. And then we can hold up Rona's Vortex to bounce whatever creature they play. You gotta be kidding me. Alright, well, we can actually protect our Jace here. So they get to draw 3 cards. Why are you playing Invoke Despair in a fight spell deck? Because it's the most broken card in Standard. You say that about every card. You're right, I do. Alright, we'll just play Depopulate, get rid of that thing. And then we can run as Vortex, whatever they play. Whatever creature they play to trigger the fight rigging. That delays it a turn, I guess. Get out of here. Get out of here with that bull crap.
Surrender your mind to Phyrexia's will.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do this. Ooh, a Jace, don't mind if I do. Alright, we do this. How much cards can we get them down? 6 times 3 is 20 or 18, so that gets them pretty low. So let's go ahead and just take it down like this. Target player. This forces them to deal with our deck, or deal with our Jace, and it also saves us from a little bit of damage from Invoke Despair. Hey, would you look at the bastard? We got 23 cards in deck. That's not going to be quite enough with Jace here. We'll go ahead and play this out though. Take this down like 3. or take it down. We could -2 it, draw 3 cards. That would be worth something. Yeah, maybe we do that. Alright, we're gonna play Jace is the thing. We can't play the Terisian Mindbreaker. There's no reason to depopulate. The question is, what is the best move? So we can -5 here. That gets him pretty low, but we could also just -4, which gets him pretty low and keeps Jace around, so that we could potentially do something. But I think the drawing 3 cards here is going to be the most relevant. We kind of need something else to do in our hand. Oh, yes, that is what we want to see. Go ahead, pass turn. I think that means we have them. Mm-hmm. I think we actually might have them. Okay, Invoke Despair. They're going to draw 3 cards if we do this. Yep. That brings them down to pretty low. That's not enough cards though, unfortunately. Hold on. 16, so they need to draw another card. We need a proliferate spell. Or Tamiyo. Either or. Ooh, okay. Uh yeah, that's a good game. You don't have a counter spell. You don't have a counter spell, don't lie.
All your failures.
You and your filthy Invoke Despairs. Go straight to the
Regret is a
graveyard.
sensible action. I put one right, and your entire mind unravels.
Yep, you lost the mill. Get wrecked. Unless you have a way to do 2 damage to us immediately, it's over. It's either I won right here or you won. Are they gonna salty rope us? That'd be too funny. Don't do it, opponent. You want to be the person who salty roped to mill. We didn't even sweeper you. Actually, we sweepered once. I lied. Alright, we are a filthy mill player. I'm sorry. I retract all my previous statements. We're a filthy mill player. But man, it is so much fun. Because I feel like this isn't as heinous as just, let's play a bunch of planeswalkers and sweepers and dirtle the game for forever. We're trying to mill you as fast as possible. We're not here to fool around. We're here to get it done. And, yep, that is a salty rope. Oh my goodness. Well, in the meantime, let's go check out what our opponent's running. You know, they got some spicy things with Reckoner's Bargain here. Eaten Alive is questionable at best. Yeah, why are you running Eaten Alive? That makes no sense. This is the worst. Planeswalker removal, just run Children of Edict. Don't run Eaten Alive. Not a good pick of a card, I would say, Eaten Alive here. Alright, let's go ahead. Do we just BM them and -2? Sounds good. Draw some cards.
No secret escapes my
And GG's. Good work, opponent. You got us down to 2. And you casted 2 Invoke Despairs, alright? It's not like we... But the funniest thing was their Invoke Despair almost lost them the game. Like, if we didn't draw into that second Jace, that Invoke Despair would have put them down to 1 card with the singular Jace that we sent back to our hand. We were that close to milling them even without the second Jace. Alright, we'll play one more, then wrap up this mill session. I mean, we've had a pretty good session, I would say. Crazy. I do really love like the choices that I made for this deck. Uh, I think I think it makes it fun and fast. It's not as like, oh, let's dirtle a bunch. Fun, fast mill. Okay, I guess MTG Arena said, you know what? We're gonna stick you at the back of the queue. You can't cancel. You want to know what's gonna happen right here? We're gonna go into a game and it's gonna draw instantly. I think. No? No, we actually didn't draw. Okay, cool. I was worried, a little worried there. Go ahead, try this hand out. I don't think this hand's actually very good. We don't have any way to get our Terisian Mindbreaker to our hand, but we do have Experimental Augury to hopefully help us find something, find another land to be able to do it, as well as a Faithful Mending, which helps us discard it. But you can see here we're playing first because it's orange. Uh, somebody mentioned that in like the comments of the video or something, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, something cool to keep in mind. And turn, we're gonna hold up the Experimental Augury as well as the bounce spell. Though I think our opponent is playing, yeah. You filthy animal. Ooh, ooh, oh, huh. This is tough because we've taken the Jace. Jace does a lot of stuff. Faithful Mending, though, I think Faithful Mending is the right pick here. Because that gives us the Terisian Mindbreaker and helps us draw into more action. Okay, Faithful Mending was the right choice. Holy crap. Alright, opponent, you're gonna have to do me a favor here and, uh, ooh. Wait, no, you can't do us any favors. Damn it! I was gonna bounce it and then we could Faithful Mending on their turn, but we can't do both of those because we only have 2 blue sources, and this forest is screwing us over. I mean, we could Fading Hope if we think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it here. Yeah, it's not worth it. We gotta get the milling. There is no room for opponent worrying about our opponent when we can just mill. Opponent goes in here with a Gleeful Spell Thief, waiting to their second main phase to do something. I think that's a little bit strange because if we chose to bounce it and on the attack thing, they wouldn't have gotten a copy or like a chance to do like copy stuff. We can go ahead and pay a life. Not too worried about our life total. But presumably our opponents are going for the toxic win, presumably. We managed to find our land, so we'll get to Terisian Mindbreaker next turn. Follow it up with another Terisian Mindbreaker. Do they have bounce spells? That is the real question. I do wonder if they have bounce spells, because I would interrupt this plan a little bit, but they would have to bounce it right now. Nope, they didn't bounce it, so we get the mill trigger. That's gonna put in a lot of work. 25 left. We just need to find basically another mill card. Any kind of another mill card. 5-hour stand, yep, they copy it, they draw a card. Don't worry, opponent, we don't care about your life total. No, we do have to worry about dying to damage here, potentially. Because we do got the Tyvar stands and everything. Ooh, I forgot, yeah, if it's legendary, they get +1/+1 and ward 1. Alright, our opponent is more of just the Gleeful Spell Thief deck. I don't know if they just haven't found their Rot Priest. No, they are running Rot Priest, but we found 2 of them in the graveyard. They do got the Timely Interference, which is a good combo card with the Rot Priest. We might just die to the 20 cards. 20 cards. 20, 20, 20. Alright, I mean, Jace, if we do the Terisian Mindbreaker here, means Jace is like a guarantee win next turn. But if we do Jace here, uh, we potentially, well, we can win next turn probably as well anyways. Let's go with Mindbreaker. Actually, hold on, cancel. Play the land first. It doesn't actually make a difference because it's tapped. How? Opponent could... I think our opponent, if they have another Tyvar stand in hand, we die. They don't have a bounce spell, so this goes through. We got 1, 2, 3 Tyvar stands, so we need them to not have the last Tyvar stand in hand. We'll find out if it's in their library. The trigger's on the stack, bro. It's over. Ah, shucks. They have the Tyvar stand in hand. They must have it in hand. Unless it's in the last portion of their library, we're about to take a bunch of damage. But then, oh, GG? GG? Is that GG? Oh my goodness, they're also drawing cards. Wait, we could have just played Jace and take it down, because they're going to draw like 2 cards anyways. Oops. I mean, it's not a good time to be drawing cards, opponent, I'm not going to lie. I was afraid they were going to kill us with the Tyvar stand, because they cast the Tyvar stand for 3 on this one. Are they just trying to take themselves out the old-fashioned way? I think they're trying to draw themselves out. They could. You don't have enough gas to get yourself the toxic win. And we have mill, opponent. We got mill. This will mill you 15. Dude, the art for this card is so cool. Oh, I didn't realize that not only is it like got this whole parallax effect, but it also has like the clouds move around. Or like the fog. Or the smoke. You know what I mean. Alright, let's go ahead. Counterspell? They didn't have any in their graveyard.
For the sake of Phyrexia,
Go ahead.
I will
Mill this. That's 6. That should mill him. Is this another salty rope? Hey opponent, you're playing to talk like raw priest. Don't do this. We're all victims here, alright?
your mind.
They're gonna draw themselves to death. Well, that's mill. Let's go ahead and hop into the deck tech. Oh shoot, did I mention that at the beginning of the video? Ah, damn it. I forgot, I think. Full deck tech at the end of the video, blah blah blah, right? And then if you enjoy the video, be sure to subscribe, because I try and make arena videos basically daily. I try and keep them kind of interesting. You won't see me playing soldiers, probably. I'll say probably just in case, because I might experiment with like Naya soldiers or something like that. But I'm not gonna be playing Azori soldiers. Is my point. Anyways, getting to the deck. Man, this deck is a blast to play if you like mill in any shape or form. It's super rewarding getting those Terisian Mindbreakers off. It just feels so good to like unearth it and mill half your opponent's library. Ooh, it's gross. Gross. Besides that, oh my goodness. Let's talk about the rest of the cards. Fading Hope here, we have 4 copies of it. I don't know if you really need 4 copies of it or if you should have 4 copies of like Ronis Vortex, but I think you probably want the 4 copies of Fading Hope just because they give you that little bit of extra card selection with the Scry one if the mana value is 3 or less. This says only return target creature, whereas this says go ahead, return target creature or planeswalker you don't control to its owner's hand. If the spell was kicked, put it on the permanent on the bottom of its library instead. Owner's library instead. We don't have any black here, so we're never going to be kicking it, but Rona's Vortex does have the upside of those Planeswalker matchups where we're facing those control decks. If the opponent is getting their Vraska up to like 9-ish loyalty, you're like, let's start from the beginning again, okay? You just bounce their Planeswalker back to their hand, and all is well there. So there is an upside of running a Rona's Vortex here. Next up, Soul Partition. Run this card. Do not run Fateful Absence, alright? Fateful Absence is a good card, don't get me wrong, and it does give the opponent a clue that will help them draw a card, which does technically like mill them for 1. But do not run Fateful Absence. Soul Partition is such secret tech in this deck. Because what you can do is it says, oops, exile target non-land permanent. It doesn't say opponent. And then it says, for as long as that card remains exiled, the owner may play it. So if we exile one of our things, we can play it. And it says a spell cast by an opponent this way costs 2 more to cast. So we don't get that additional cost. We can go ahead, exile our Founding of the Third Path, and then cast it again. That is worth something. So if you really just need to get like 4 more cards, oops, just exile your freaking Founding of the Third Path, play it again, mill 4. Or what I like to do is I mill the opponent with -4 here with Jace, and then we hold up a Soul Partition here. We hold up Soul Partition, and then you can go ahead and exile your Jace for 2 mana, and then you can go ahead and cast it again your next turn, and then -5. So you mill them for 4, which is 12, and then you exile it, you have it back. You can go ahead and play it, mill them for 5, that's another 15. So you've milled them with like 27. You milled them 27 just with one Jace. And then if your Jace goes to the graveyard, you can again go ahead use Tamiyo to -X Tamiyo and get yourself your or -4 Tamiyo here with the X ability, get it from your graveyard, and then mill your opponent again. So that's the whole strategy here is we want to use Jace. If we can find a Jace copy, we want to run it as long as we can. So we want to be using those Fading Hopes to defend it, the Soul Partitions to defend it, or particularly we want to use the Soul Partitions to bounce our Jace back to our hand, in quotations, not really bouncing it to our hand, we're putting it in exile, which is even better than putting it in our hand because our opponent can't make us discard it. It's crazy good. And then we can go ahead and play it again. So we saw it come in handy there. I originally saw this when I was watching, I think it was a Zero video or whatever. It's another MTG like content creator. Perhaps I'll put their channel in the description. Well, maybe not the description. I'll put it in the comments or something. But I saw them playing against an opponent who used Soul Partition on their Jace, and I was like, holy crap, that's genius. I would have never thought about that. So that is something that you can go ahead and do. Definitely run Soul Partition, Jace. Tamiyo is not bad. Finding the Third Path, really hype card. And then Faithful Mending plus Terisian Mindbreaker is really nice. Faithful Mending also great because it gains us 2 life. Super cool. While I'm on the topic of bouncing your own planeswalker, there is Alchemist's Retrieval here. You could potentially run this card as well, maybe instead of the Soul Partition. It basically does the same thing Soul Partition does, but it doesn't tax your opponent. So if you're running on a budget and you don't really want to spend like some rares here on Soul Partition, this is a good way to get around that. And in fact, you maybe could swap even out like the Rona's Vortex. Problem is, Alchemist Retrieval does cost you 2. You have to cleave it to bounce your opponent's permanents, and then you can pay 1 to bounce your own permanent. So there is advantage of this, and then there's disadvantages of this. I think one of the problems here is I don't know if you can cast the cleave cost very easily with Founding of the Third Path. So if you run into a situation where you want to bounce with the Alchemist Retrieval instead of like, say you wanted to Soul Partition with the Founding of the Third Path, well, you might not exactly be able to do that without paying extra. Not entirely sure, but I think that's how it works. Now, moving on to the other cards. Soul Partition. Anyways, this is great. It hits any non-land permanent. So we can go ahead and exile our opponents like, oh, your Forge, your Urabrass Forge is going off a little bit too hard. Let's go ahead and reset that. Give us a little bit more time to mill you. So that's a good example of why it's good to be able to hit other permanents. Experimental Augury, talked about it during our games here. Really nice because we get that card selection, so we can be like, go ahead, we can think about, ooh, do we want Jace, do we want Faithful Mending? Can we find that extra land to help us cast that Depopulate, or do we need to find the Depopulate, or is another bounce cell actually just going to be good enough? Like, you get these good selection, like every card in our deck is generally a pretty good hit, and then we can choose which one's like best for that situation, and then we get that whole upside of proliferating, which is huge. When we get to use it with Jace and Founding of the Third Path. If we just cast as the Founding of the Third Path, we instantly get the mill, and then next turn we can potentially cast Experimental Augury again, which is pretty hype. It is a little bit annoying that the third chapter of Founding the Third Path triggers at the beginning of your turn before you're even able to play another land. You do get to see what you draw though, so you at least can use that information. Founding of the Third Path, this card is very nice in this deck. we need basically every mill card we can fit into this deck that is good. There is some other mill cards in standard right now. Like we got, let's see. The biggest one here is, I guess there's this. There's a number of creatures you control with Depender, so that's not very good. Um, yeah, you got Goshen Tie, which is not very good. Casualty or Cut Your Losses is a actually viable mill card, but we're not interested in trying to get up to 6 mana consistently. You can see how hard it can be to do that. The only like honorable mention here is Font of Progress. We're not running this card because it's too slow. It's still too slow. It enters with 2 oil counters, and then you mill 2 by paying 3 and tapping it. Bro, that is way too expensive. Pay 3, like yeah, I get that you can reuse it, but in this case, it's way too expensive for what we're trying to do. Maybe you could go ahead and swap out like a Fading Hope for 1 font, just because in some scenarios, when you run out of ways to mill your opponent, um, like if we use a Jace, we lose a Jace, we use the Founding of the Third Death, and then we also have like, we can't find a card. This is another way to mill, and we can reuse it, so there is that upside. But in most situations, this is going to be too slow. We play it on like 1, which uses up our potential like Fading Hope territory, right? And then we were like paying 3 mana to mill 2. That's not very good. It's not a very good cost. The only upside is that you can proliferate the oil counters, and then you can go ahead and reuse it. But it's just too slow in this situation. But yeah, you can see our mill cards here. Faithful Mending, already talked about. Very nice though that we can go ahead and discard this as well. So we can go ahead and like, if we Faithful Mending into another Faithful Mending, we can toss it into a graveyard, and then we can flash it back for 3. Flashback's also relevant because we can hopefully help us to gain like 4 life with this card if we're being pressed on the life total. That is very nice. To populate, just basically the best sweeper in these colors for like the cheapest cost, right? And actually, if we talk about it, the opponent drawing a card if they have a multicolored creature kind of plays into what we want to do, is we want our opponent's library to be empty. So the opponent drawing a card here really isn't that much of a downside, besides when we're being like super pressured and we're playing against like hasters. But Jace here, good card. I think we've kind of established that in this gameplay. Jace put in crazy ton of work. Like literally these 2 cards are the deck. If you if you want to really look at it that way, Mindbreaker, Jace, and like Terisian Mindbreaker is better than Jace in the sense that it mills more, but it doesn't stick around and have as much like utility as Jace. Terisian Mindbreaker is basically like a 4 mana mill half library spell in a way. So that is very cool. And then, yeah, Jace though, I think this card, it will take you a little bit while to get used to playing it. I think most of the times it's a bit of a bait to go for the -2. We're mill. We need every single card we can get into the opponent's graveyard there as soon as possible. So we really can't afford to just -2, because that -2 could be, well, it could be a -4 and milling 12 cards. And if you use 2 loyalty to mill 3, you could have still instead milled 6 with the last ability instead. So don't think the -2 here is good unless you're out of like things in your hand, and then that drawing into something like, okay, you -2, you draw into 3 cards, you draw into a depopulate, you sweep through the board. That is where it's viable. But I think in most situations you don't want to use the -2 unless the opponent has 20 cards in their graveyard and you need more gas, basically. So most of the time I'm gonna play this, I'm gonna -4, and then I'm gonna hold up some way to get Jace back in my hand or protect it and waste the opponent's time attacking the Jace rather than attacking us. So yeah. Lastly, Tamiyo. Tamiyo is here just to be basically Jace Reanimator spell. You could go ahead and play like, what is it? Repair and Recharge, right? I'll go ahead and pull up the card for reference. So this goes ahead, returns target artifact, enchantment, or planeswalker card from your graveyard to the battlefield, create a tap Power Stone token. Problem is, this is less useful than Tamiyo. So that's why we're playing Tamiyo here. Tamiyo puts in more work than Repair and Recharge because we get all this extra utility. We can go ahead, tap their opponent's creature, keep it tapped, and like defend ourselves that way, or we can go ahead -2 to get back the Experimental Augury, or sorry, not Experimental Augury, the Founding of the Third Path. We're just gonna go ahead and mill 4 more. You can get back an enchantment with your Repair and Recharge, but spending 5 mana to get back Founding of the Third Path doesn't feel as good as just minusing 2 Tamiyo, getting it back, and still having Tamiyo around to act as like a secondary target besides our face. And then Tamiyo's also got that -7, which we're never really going to shoot for in this deck, because we're gonna hopefully use that minus ability or that to get back Founding of the Third Path, Jace, and keep the mill train going basically. Because we can go ahead and get back Founding of the Third Path, use the first ability to cast a spell for free, or we can use that second ability to mill for 4, or we can go ahead and cast another card from our graveyard. So say we just need to get like a Soul Partition off to get our Jace back into our hand, and we don't have that, well, boom, that's like extra utility. So I think Tamiyo fits in this deck in a very amazing way to just give us that extra utility to get back Jace and Founding of the Third Path. And then lastly, in terms of our lands, if we go over here, you can see that we're mostly blue, and then we've got some white, and then we only have Tamiyo as our only blue source, or our only green source in this deck. So predominantly trying to run blue and white lands, I guess. But I guess we do have these full playset of Yawgmoth Coast and Dreamroot Cascade. The mana base probably could be worked on, but you can see that we're not running to Sage you here because, well, we don't really want to draw into that many green sources because it's gonna hamper our ability to cast things like Faithful Mending. We saw that forest be a problem when we wanted to cast Fading Hope and the Faithful Mending. We couldn't. Didn't end up mattering. Still won that game. But yeah, that is the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a comment, like, subscribe, whatnot. And let me know if there's any decks that you'd be interested in seeing. I have a few more fun decks planned, but I always love to hear you guys' ideas and try brewing around them. So have a nice morning, evening, night, afternoon, whenever, wherever you're watching. Ciao.